Well, hi there. This is Caleb Jones, and this is Alpha Male 2.0, freedom-focused lifestyle design for men, and I apologize in advance for the audio quality of this particular podcast. I'm doing this as I'm on the road traveling, but whatever, doesn't matter. I don't really focus on the concept of mentors and mentorship as much as a lot of other content providers do. I know guys like, who'd be an example, like Ty Lopez. These guys are really into find a mentor and get some mentors and mentors, and you need a mentor. And there are men that I have known in my life that I have emulated, at least bits and pieces of them. I have certainly read a lot of books and consumed a lot of audio courses, online courses, and things like that to help make me more successful. That's certainly true. But I've never really had a full-on mentor who sat me down and worked with me for months or years and showed me how to be successful. I never really had that. But what I have had are various men at various points in my life give me nuggets of wisdom, things that really resonated with me and things that made a very big difference in my life. Kind of these leverage moments where a man who was more successful than me or more intelligent than me or more experienced than me gave me a single sentence or two or a single concept. I went, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Oh my God, that's crazy. And then I put that into practice in my life, and then I got results. So one of the biggest ones, this was a big, not changing point in my life, but this was one of the things that happened to me, let's see, almost 30 years ago. A man I respect, an old guy, who when I was a kid, I was probably 17, 18 years old. I was still in high school as a teenager. And this was not my dad. This is an old man that I knew. And he said something that to this day, actually about 30 years ago, about 30 years exactly, 30 years ago, I still reflect on, I still remind myself of it. It has helped me in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I'm sure it'll help me in my 50s and 60s. One basic statement that he told me. And I was complaining to him about a girl I liked in high school. This is when I was maybe 17 or so. And I was a young, dumb beta male kid. And I had horrible one-itis for this one girl who wasn't like the rest and made me depressed and made me feel sad and thought about her all the time and typical beta male stuff. And I was talking to him about this, and he said something very interesting. I don't remember the exact words that he used to verbalize this, but this is basically what he said. He said, human beings want their problems. And I went, what? He's like, yes. Human beings want their problems. The myth of humanity, one of the great myths, is that we don't like our problems and we want our problems to be fixed. We want our problems to go away. And he said, that's not correct. That is not true. Generally speaking, most of the time, particularly if the problem is an ongoing one, and I'll make that distinction in a minute, we want the problem. There is part of our ego, part of our subconscious, part of our minds, part of our justifications we use, some aspect of our psyche that wants the problem that we are now bitching about, even if it is very serious problems. An extreme example would be a woman who gets beat up by her husband or boyfriend, and she leaves him, and within a few weeks she goes back to him, knowing that the odds are overwhelming he will beat her again. That's an extreme example of this, but the examples don't have to be that extreme. They can be any problem that are ongoing in your life. And I have found that both not only with myself, with other people I have known, other people who I've been close to in my life, other people I have worked with in my business life, and also in politics and on societal levels, we actually want our problems. We want them. And the reason we want them gets very complicated. I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist, so I can't give you the deep psychology of these things. But I'll give you several reasons why we want these problems. And the first reason is that we want justification. We want to say, I can't do X because of Y. And Y would be your problem. And if you can say, well, I can't do this because of Y, then obviously I can't do that. It gives you an out. I've talked before about how everything in your life is your fault. That was a prior podcast I did in this series. And one of the benefits, quote unquote, of saying that these problems are not your fault is that you can justify it, right? You can say, well, I'm an innocent victim sitting over here and I wish I could do X, but I can't because of Y, so I guess I'm fucked. Wrong. Incorrect. And now, again, having this problem. Now, what happens if I remove Y? So if you say, I can't do X because of Y, what happens if I remove Y? What happens if you fix Y? Uh-oh, now you have no more excuses. You could just pick another excuse, but then you're going to look stupid. And maybe you'll see that with younger people or more immature people. They'll say, I can't do X because of Y. Well, what if Y, da-da-da-da? Y goes, well, now I can't do it because of this. And now I can't do it because of that. So it gives you a justification. Another reason that we want our problems is that it gives us validation. People go, oh yeah, that sucks. You're right. Or at least we feel that people do that. We have this feeling that people will take our side if we can point at this awful, terrible problem and say, oh, woe is me. Look at this problem I have. I can't lose weight, or I can't get laid, or I can't make any money. I'm just not good at business skills, or I had a bad childhood, or I can't quit this alcohol, or I can't quit these drugs, or whatever the fucking problem is. And I am reasonably sure that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you probably have one of those or something closely related to something I just said, some aspect of your life that you have that has been a recurring problem over and over and over again for more than 3, 4, 5, 6 months that you are probably justifying, at least on a subconscious level. And so I would submit to you, and I probably should have started this podcast this way, but whatever, I submit to you that any problem you have had in your life that has lasted longer than 6 months, you want. Let me say that again. I'm going to be very clear about this. Any recurring problem, I don't care what the problem is. I don't care what you think the source of the problem is. I don't care what area of your life this problem is. Any problem you have had recurring for more than 6 months, you want. I am not talking about the type of problem where it occurs in your life and then you hustle and fix it, or it fixes itself and then it never happens again. That's normal. That's part of life. I've talked about that before in my YouTube videos and podcasts and other content. The goal of life is never to have no problems. The goal of life is not to have zero problems ever. That's impossible. As a matter of fact, if you have zero problems, that means you're probably not growing. So that's not the objective. The objective is to have a higher quality of problems. Temporary problems. Problems that are temporary. All the problems in my life, except for one I'll talk about in a second, are temporary. They occur, I take a hammer and I smash them down and they're gone and they don't come back. That's how this is supposed to work. I'm talking here about the recurring problems. Problems you've experienced for a long time, 6 months plus. Certainly if it's been several years. It could be, and usually it's one of those areas for most guys. It is financial, I can't get my finances together. It is sexual, I can't get laid. Or I can't, quote unquote, can't leave my bitchy girlfriend or my horrible wife. One of those two. Or it is physical, I can't lose weight, or I can't, cut down on the alcohol, or I can't cut off these drugs, or I can't, can't start exercising, whatever the problem is. Or it's something deeper. I have an interpersonal issue, I have some kind of problem from my childhood, what have you, I've had it my whole life, blah, 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 blah. Okay. These problems, I submit to you, you want them. You want them. And you say, no, I don't. Are you kidding? They destroy my life. I hate them. I hate it. I hate worrying about them. I hate thinking about them. No, you worrying about them, you thinking about them, you bitching about them has now become part of your story. It's become part of your personal narrative. And if they're gone, that part of your ego that likes to be pissed off about these things will have, quote unquote, nothing to do. That is what you fear. You actually fear not having the problem. And again, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not an expert in this area. But I know a little bit about this stuff. I've done a lot of reading. My dad is a psychologist. I've experienced these feelings myself. I've seen men go through this. I've seen women go through this. You want your problems. So if you have a recurring problem in your life for more than 6 months, what you might need to do is sit down with yourself with a piece of paper and a pencil or a computer or blank Word document and write out and do some examination in your life. Why do I want this problem? What are the needs that my crazy psychotic brain have that this problem helps fulfill? What am I avoiding by having this problem that scares me? You need to start asking these questions and giving yourself some answers. You need to start addressing this stuff. And I mean it. Don't not do this. Often we try to solve problems with techniques, right? With certain things to do. Okay, I'm going to read a book on how to make more money because I need to make more money. So I'm going to read this book on sales or having your own business. I'm going to do this stuff. And even if that book is perfect, Sometimes if you have this ego problem, this recurring problem of you not having enough money because you want to be poor, you want to have financial problems at a subconscious level or ego level, you can try all this stuff, but you don't follow through on it because you want your problem, which means you need to dig a little deeper. The problem is not surface level. The problem is deeper into your brain. It's deeper into your psychology. I will give you several examples from my life, things that I went through where I did this and it worked, and things where I struggled. So one problem I had when I was a very, very young man, I've mentioned this before, is I moved out of my house when I was 18 years old. And for quite a while, I had all kinds of financial problems. I regularly would have trouble buying my own food. I would regularly have trouble putting gas in my own car. I would regularly, on a regular basis, my electric bill in particular was always late. It was 3 or 4 or 5 months, not 5 months, 3 or 4 months late. And I got to the point where I could figure out, I don't know if you can relate to this at all, especially you younger guys. I got to the point where I could figure out which of the bills I could be really late on and how many months I could be late on. So like my rent for my apartment, I could never be late on that. I had to make that on time. I could be a few days late, but that was it. But my electric bill, I realized I could take that thing, 4 months out before they'd really get pissed off. All right, cool. So my electric bill, my natural gas bill, some of my credit card bills were always really, really late. And this drove me crazy. I hated this. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I reminded myself that the reason I moved out of my house so quickly was so I could start making money so I wouldn't experience the financial lack that I experienced in my childhood, which also drove me nuts. My parents had very little money, usually no money, and it drove me crazy and I hated it. And I said, holy shit, look what I've done here. I've just replicated the thing that I hated when I was a kid in my adult life. Barely adult, I was 18, 19 years old. So I said, okay, I don't want this problem anymore. And I identified these things. I have replicated that thing that I had experienced in my childhood. This does not make me happy. I've got to get this taken care of. I want to make a 6-figure income. That's when I set a goal to make a 6-figure income by age 28. I actually hit it a year early by age 27, and I started busting my ass. And by the time I was 19, I was making a decent amount of money. By the time I was in my early 20s, I was making, if you adjust for inflation, $70,000, $80,000 a year. And even then, however, I was still running into the problems of me not getting my bills paid on time. I'd blow my money on stupid shit. And I had to reevaluate it again at a psychological level. Why do I want this? Oh, okay, this is why. These are the needs it has. And I had to identify those. And, by the time I was maybe 30, I fixed all those problems. I was making a 6-figure income, but I still had a lot of financial problems. So it took me a while, even though I was making a high income and living a good life. I drove a nice car, lived in a nice house and blah, blah, blah. I still had a lot of money management problems for a long time. It's because at some level, I wanted these problems. I wanted to bitch about it. I wanted to identify with it through my childhood and so on. Now, eventually I fixed those problems. Thank God. My financial life is perfect today. It's great. But it took me a while because I had to identify why I wanted that problem. Now, here's another problem that I'm still wrestling with. I mentioned earlier, I have no recurring problems in my life at all, which is nice. I don't, except for how much I weigh. My body fat is still a little too high. Now, I have lost a lot of weight. I've lost around, let's see, my weight fluctuates, so it's hard to say. I think I'm down a net of 40 pounds from when I started. So I've lost a lot of weight, and I've been able to maintain that weight loss. I usually, historically, I would gain the weight back. And I'm still continuing to lose weight, although it's very slow. But the reason I was able to lose the 40 pounds and keep it off, which is something I had never, ever, ever been able to do in my entire life before, and I've gone through chubbier periods and very chubby periods. I've kind of gone up and down throughout my adult life. But the reason for that is, instead of trying, which is what most guys do, which guys on the internet had advised me to do, instead of trying intermittent fasting, which I do, or instead of trying the ketogenic diet, which I do, or instead of trying, hey, Caleb, have you tried the carnivore diet? Hey, Caleb, have you tried going vegan? Hey, Caleb, what you need to do is start doing sprints every morning. Hey, Caleb, I get a lot of suggestions from a lot of guys on how to lose weight, lose body fat, and it's always a different answer. And it's always a technical technique. It's always a specific to-do item in terms of what to eat, what not to eat, or how to exercise, or when to exercise, or something regarding what to ingest or what to physically do with my body. No one has ever suggested, Caleb, you have some kind of psychological thing going on. You need to address that. It's not about calories or or carnivore diet or that bullshit. Whether or not it works or not, that's not the topic of this podcast. I'm saying my problem was psychological. So finally, after trying all these things for about 8 different years and struggling and failing in terms of losing body fat and keeping it off, I finally surrendered about a year ago. And I said, all right, I have to look at this psychologically. I am now going to forget about dieting, what types of food I'm eating, what types of exercise I'm doing. I'm going to focus 100% on my psychology. And that's where things started to turn around for me. And I've done much better with my weight over the past 12 months than I have in my entire life, my entire adult life anyway, because I realized the psychological aspects of eating that I had that were sabotaging me, why I wanted this problem, why it was psychologically comfortable for my conscious and subconscious mind to repeat certain patterns, even if they were patterns I didn't want. So I used a system, I talked about this on my blogs before, called Noom, N-O-O-M. It's an app, and you put an app on your phone and you track your calories, and there's things to do every week, and there's goals, and you actually have a coach, and you're part of a group and a bunch of other stuff. It is, as I mentioned in the article about this, when I mentioned this a few months ago, it is very female-centric. There are a lot more women involved in this program than men, and a lot of the examples used are female examples. But the reason I chose this system is because it 100% focused on the psychology. And so they say things like, yes, you have to watch your calories, but forget about your macros, forget about the types of food you eat. We need to focus on your fucking psychology. You've got problems with how you eat. If you are overweight, or at least more than what is typical American normal, I guess if you're 10, 15 pounds overweight and you're a guy, you're probably fine. But if you're more than that overweight and you've been overweight like that for more than 6 months, again, going back to what I said, that means you want your problem on some level. You need to identify why you want that, the psychological aspects. And I realized, going through those materials, that I had never been taught how to eat. What? Yes. So I had never been taught how to eat. Some men are naturally good eaters. Some men are highly ectomorphic. Some men have really good metabolisms. Some men, more importantly, don't love to eat. They like to eat, but they don't love to eat. In other words, a lot of men will eat a piece of cheesecake and go, oh, that's really good. And then there are guys like me who will eat a piece of cheesecake and go, oh my God, oh, that's so fucking, oh, that's so fucking good. It's almost an orgasmic experience when they eat. I have known several people, all of whom fat, much fatter than me. I don't consider myself fat, just a little chubby. Got to lose some weight. But fat guys, and they just love eating food. That's me. I love eating food. And then there are guys who like eating food. It's fine. Not a big deal. They like having a piece of pizza, and they like pizza. That's good pizza. Whereas if I eat pizza, oh man, I had some pizza about 3 or 4 weeks ago on one of my cheat days with Pink Firefly. And I had extra cheese, extra pepperoni, extra onion, and extra pineapple. Fuck, that was good shit. And I'm telling you, as I ate that pizza, and Pink Firefly can vouch for this, anyone who has watched me eat can vouch for this. I go, oh my fucking God, this is so good. It was such a wonderful experience. A lot of men aren't like that. A lot of people aren't like that. And some are. So when you're the type of guy, and again, I'm just using this as an example. This is not a podcast, how to lose weight. If I get down to my goal weight anytime soon, then I will be talking a lot about that, but I'm not there yet. So I have no authority to discuss that yet. I'm just giving you an example of how I handled it when I realized my psychology wanted this problem. I realized that men who like to eat need to be taught how to eat. Not all men. A lot of men grow up in the horrible American environment of horrible American food, and they're never fat, or they never get seriously overweight, whether or not they're ectomorphic, because they understand how to eat. For example, and this may sound funny if you're in that category of you've never been seriously overweight, but I had to learn to actually check my satiety level before I actually ate food. In other words, I had to stop and check, how full do I feel before I went and grabbed some food and shoved it in my mouth. And that was an amazing revelation to me when I learned that. I had no idea. I've lived 50 years on this earth, and no one ever explained to me, hey, Caleb, before you eat, stop for a minute and actually check your stomach and ask yourself how full or not you are, how hungry or not you are. And through the Noom system, there's a 7-point scale, a 7-level scale of anywhere from you're starving to an irrational level all the way up to level 7, where you are so full, you have like a food hangover, like the day after Thanksgiving. And the objective that they recommend is on that scale, you are from a 1 to 7, you are at a 3 or a 4, meaning you're completely neutral or you're satisfied. You're not hungry, you're not full, you're satisfied. They talk about you should stick there throughout most of the day. So in other words, I have had to train myself, and I'm pretty good at this now, and I've never been good at this my whole life. This is something new for me. Train myself to, whenever my hand reaches for some food, or whenever I get up and say, hey, I want some chocolate, or hey, I want a cookie, or hey, I want to eat an egg salad sandwich. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter what the food is. I want some soup, even if it's healthy. I want a salad, doesn't matter. I say, I think I want to eat something. Stop. I know it's a habit I've ingrained in myself. I stop and say, wait a second, what is my satiety level? And I don't proceed until I get a number. And often I'll say, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm fine. And I'll sit right back down and keep working. It's great. I never had that skill. Never learned how to do that. This is all psychological. I could go on and on about the psychological aspects of this, but I don't want to get sidetracked into a completely different topic. The point is that when I had a recurring problem in my life, and I identified it as a recurring problem, I stopped with the technical shit and focused on the psychology. Why do I want this problem? Why do I want to be overweight? And immediately my brain said, just like your brain said, I'm sure a few minutes ago, I don't want to be fucking overweight. I want to be ripped. But no, I had to dig in there. Here's another aspect I found. In terms of why I wanted this, I follow the Alpha Male 2.0 lifestyle. A core tenet of that lifestyle is unlimited freedom. Freedom to do whatever I want. I should be able to do literally whenever I want, with whomever I want, without having to check with anyone. I've said that many, many, many times. And so when I asked myself, why do I want to be overweight? And I got through the initial, oh, but I don't. When I had to dig into my subconscious, I found some interesting stuff. One thing I heard from my subconscious said, I am a free man. Freedom is the core of my life. It is the number one greatest value of my life. All true. Therefore, my subconscious said, I should be allowed to eat literally whatever I want, whenever I want. I went, aha, there's the conflict. There we go. So there is a part of the identification as to why I quote unquote, to be overweight. I am an Alpha Male 2.0. I have unlimited freedom. I am an example of freedom for other men. Therefore, if I want to eat an apple fritter, if I want to eat a fucking Cinnabon, if I want to eat fucking Taco Bell, I should be able to eat that shit whenever the fuck I want because I follow unlimited freedom. Aha. So I had to rewire, and I'm still not 100% there as of this recording. I'm still not 100% there with this, but I'm much further down the road on this in the last 12 months than I ever have been in my life. I had to rewire that to say, the only way I can experience true freedom is if I am very physically fit, if I am an athlete. Not just lose 10 pounds or lose 20 pounds, which was my objective earlier. My objective now, my long-term objective, is actually to be an athlete. One of my affirmations I say every morning is, I am an athlete. Doesn't make any sense right now and look in the mirror right now. I don't look bad, but I don't look like an athlete. Not yet. Not yet. It's coming. So, that's my example. I'm sure you have your own examples. I'm sure there are aspects to the problems that you have that you want. So I'm going to repeat this. You want that recurring problem. Now, what if, God forbid, you have more than one? Let's address that really quick. What if, because I know some of you guys do, you say something like, well, wait a minute, money, women, health, dude, all three are my problems. I've spoken to a few guys like this. I have no money. I'm fucking poor. I haven't had sex in 2 years. And I have all these health problems. Let's say you have several recurring problems. What do you do? Where do you start? I've talked about this before. You follow the rule of 2. You should never try to fix or work on more than any one life area, more than 1 or 2 at a time. That's in terms of projects, in terms of big goals, in terms of new habits, and certainly if you're trying to fix a recurring problem, because that's kind of a tall order. So what you should do is write down your recurring problems. Hopefully you don't have too many. 1, 2, or 3. Well, if you have more than one, it's 2 or 3, I would assume. Probably not more than 3. And you prioritize them. What is the one problem that I can fix out of the 3 that I have that would make the greatest positive effect on the other 2? Whatever that is. You might decide it's your woman life. Great. You might decide it's your physical fitness life. Fine. You might decide it's your financial life, getting your finances in order, getting your income up, getting your Alpha 2.0 business started. Whatever that is. Don't care. Identify that. Forget about the other 2 for the moment and psychologically dig into that first one. Why? Why do I want this problem? This one problem. Don't worry about the other ones right now. One at a time. Just like starting your Alpha 2.0 businesses. You should have 2 to 4 small location-independent businesses that added up, give you an income of at least $75,000 a year, location independent, but I would never say to you, start 3 companies at once. I certainly didn't. I would never want you to do that. One at a time. Same thing here. So if you have more than one problem, recurring problem, that is your fault. Let's go back to that. It's your fault. And you want it. You need to dig into it psychologically and ask, why do I want this? And that's literally what you should do, by the way. Sit down with a blank document, Write out your problem at the top of the page. I've done this. Write out the problem at the top of the page. Be very specific with the problem. Not like, I'm unhappy. No. Be very specific. I am 40 pounds overweight. Or I make $22,000 a year and I'm in my 40s. Or whatever the problem is. I haven't had sex in 3 years. Or I can only have sex with ugly girls. I don't know what it is. Write it out, specific as you can. Then the next line, say, why do I want this? And then just shut up and listen to your subconscious. Listen to what your brain says. Now, initially, it's going to say, but I don't want it. And you say, well, if I did want it, why would I want it? That's the Tony Robbins technique. If I did want it, why would I want it? And that'll get into your subconscious. You'll start getting some very interesting answers if you really do this. Do this on a quiet day for yourself. And then when you get some answers, seek to rewire or rephrase those answers. Just like I rephrased my, I should be able to eat whatever I want, to true freedom is only possible if I'm physically fit. Another thing I threw in there is I said, I can eat whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. I just have to eat them in the proper amounts. That's a Noom technique. So what Noom says is they say, don't stop eating the food you like. If you like donuts, have donuts every day. But have a donut. Have a donut and a half. 300 calories, 400 calories, and the rest eat correctly and keep within your caloric deficit. And you can also, if you want a cheat day, that's fine too. They don't actually like cheat days, and I've tried to avoid them. But anyway, you get my point. This is all a fixable thing. Just realize that you want your recurring problems and that you have the power to fix your recurring problems because, as I've said on prior podcasts, everything in your life is your fault. If you need more help with this stuff, if you'd like to work with me personally, join smic.com. We have over 80 audio trainings there, both women and business, and you can work with me personally. It's my monthly membership coaching program. It's awesome. Join smic.com. I will see you very soon. I hope this helps. Please take this material seriously. You deserve to be happy. See you soon. Bye.